There you
Thank
go.
you.
Have a good meeting.
You too. Well, thanks.
Thanks,
Have a
Beth.
good evening. Get everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, good evening and welcome to the August, what are
Beth.
we? 5th Scituate Conservation meeting. Before we get started, I just got a couple of quick things to read. This meeting is being held virtually as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. Number two, the town of Scituate, Mass commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. Okay, that said, we have an agenda, and is there any additions or omissions to the?
I wanted to add something about 15 Bassin, and
Okay,
you asked me to remind you about camping or the Boy Scouts.
I'd like to just have a little discussion. The scouts have approached us again.
Oh, good.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add to this?
Not tonight.
Okay. All right. So that said, can I have a,
I make a motion, we accept the agenda with the couple of add-ons, Jen and Frank's.
yeah, it was Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Brendan.
Okay, Brendan. Just looking real. Uh, all in favor? Richard?
Yes.
And we said Doug's not on tonight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Jen?
Yep.
Thank you, Eric.
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Thanks. Okay. Why don't we start with our regular items here? We have 327 Tilden Road.
Yep. So that's James Garfield with Morse Engineering representing the applicant.
And we do need to open this
Yep.
one.
Open it
Yeah,
then.
right here with it. On August 5th, 2024 at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application for Christian Cedar Home for work related to the construction of a garage at 327 Tilden Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website. So, James.
Yep. So again, good evening, everyone. James Garfield with Morse Engineering, representing the applicant for a notice of intent for a detached garage at 327 Tilden Road. This is a 62,445 square foot property, currently developed with a single family home built in 1959 per the assessor's card. The subject resource area at this site is a bordering vegetated wetland, shown here in blue. We've also got the 50 and 100-foot setbacks shown in red and green. We're proposing to construct, again, a 32 by 28 detached garage within the 100-foot buffer zone. A portion of the existing paved driveway will be removed and replaced with crushed stone, a crushed stone portion of driveway to access the front face of this garage. The garage is set back as far into the rear yard as is necessary to provide the turning radius necessary to actually swing the car into both bays of said garage. let's see here. This results in the removal of one tree and also some minor grading just to the rear of that garage. This disturbance is within previously disturbed areas. We've got an erosion control barrier just down gradient of said work. And it should also be noted that this project does not trigger a stormwater permit. It's below the 25% increase in impervious threshold. But the applicant has proposed 8 infiltrator ARC36 dry well chambers, which will capture all the runoff from this proposed roof. So with that, I'll pass it back to the commission for any questions.
Okay. Jen?
I did want to double check that the proposed new impervious included the work at the house also. It's not just the barn as far as those numbers are concerned. And I had a couple questions about the area behind where the barn is, like the car tent, if that was planning on coming out. And if there was, any plantings being proposed along the wetland line.
Yeah, so quick note on that. I spoke with the owner today. The carport will be removed as part of this project. And we don't have any plantings proposed yet, but the owner is not against maybe a 5-foot wide strip of plantings adjacent to the wetlands.
Okay.
How about the square footage? Did you get an answer on that, Jen? Your question was the impervious did include both the house and the barn, right?
It does, Frank.
Okay. All right, great. Anything else, Jen?
I mean, those are my questions just about the site. I guess my other concern, which is, I know it's outside the 100, but um, it- you know, part of the driveway where it's switching to gravel, is anything being done to kind of help it to have things not go down into the garage of the house? If that makes sense, the one that's underneath the house.
Yeah. We don't show any spot shots right now, but I could certainly add a spot shot or two to the plan just to show that water will go around the garage and not right into the face of it.
Okay.
Just clarify what you just asked. So were you asking is there a garage under the existing house?
Yes, where that retaining wall is that is coming off the house
Okay.
in the back. And so, anyways, I just figured it was worth asking if while all this was going on, is something going to happen to help so that, water doesn't just go down there.
Is that a garage under, James?
Now that I'm looking at it, yes, it is.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Uh, Penny?
Yeah, I just want to be sure the plantings will be the whole length of the property in the back there.
Well, we don't have anything proposed yet. I mean, that's something
Well,
that's up for
Jen,
this.
he said 5 feet.
Well, the owners, well, I mean,
Oh,
that's something
okay,
you
well,
want.
that's my concern, that it would go from property line to property line along the wetlands buffer. And the car tent's coming out, so that's good. Yeah, that's my concern, because even though it's grass, you are between the 50 and 100 with this structure. Okay.
Okay. Jen Foley?
Um, yeah, so I guess my thoughts would be, I appreciated James' context on why the placement is what it is. I think it would be great if it was even just a couple feet closer to the house so that there's nothing in the 50. Like we can even maybe get the limit of work outside the 50. Because I think we all know how sometimes those things go. I agree with Penny on the mitigation planting, but would also want that to I'm also thinking about that 10-inch tree that's being removed. So wanting that to be covered in addition to that 5 foot.
Why?
And I think that might be it for now.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, so like Jenna, I'd also like to see that tree, which is being removed, something comparable put in. So the 5 foot, what kind of square footage would 5 foot bring us? I mean, we're looking at this structure is like almost 900 square feet. So I'd like something comparable for planting. That would be nice. Also, I'm curious if, as part of the planting, if that stone wall would be removed, if that's where we're going back to, and again back to what Jen said. Yeah, this is like right up against the 50, and I'd want some kind of assurance we're not going to slip over the edge here. Um, and I think that's about it.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, I think it's apparent that there's been a lot of work done on this site over the past few years. There's been plenty of clearing of trees from the wetland border to the 50, a number of trees.
Yeah.
It's clearly evident on the satellite imagery. So I don't think that it's a tall ask to have a substantial planting to want this out of the 50, including a limit of work, as well as some sort of mitigation for, at the very least, the 10-inch tree that's being removed, because it appears as if that tree canopy has shrunk back to the wetland border from that 50, towards the wetland, including what appears to be some regrading efforts. So I think that it would be appropriate to ask for decent mitigation measures, especially having the limit of work outside of the 50. I don't think that's an unreasonable ask.
Okay. Richard?
Yeah, I agree with what Eric just said and what everybody else said too. I think there has to be a planting plan that would include several trees. I don't expect someone to replace a 10-inch tree, but several trees that will certainly add up to that included in that planting plan. And I know, James, what you said, that you put it as far back so to have the right turning radius, and I do understand something about that, but I have to agree if it could be moved up even a couple of feet, it would be really advantageous to the whole situation. I think we need a solid planting plan, though. And the other question I have on that carport or whatever that is, I'm assuming, I have not been there, but I'm assuming there is not a solid flooring under that it's either grass or something other than concrete.
I can't speak for sure on that, Richard. I know it's covered with a tarp and you can't really see the ground from the outside. I could get the answer to that for you though.
Yeah, well, my point should be if it is concrete, that should be out and something else there.
Sure.
Something porous.
That we can do.
Okay. That's it, Frank, for now.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody in the audience? Okay. Couple of things. So along with this, it looks like there's an addition planned for the for the front of the house? And also, is that retaining, there's a black line at the back of the house that's I know this is all outside the 100, but there's other work going on the
Yeah,
house at this
I
time.
I could elaborate on that just real
Sure.
quick. It's not quite as much as it looks like. The front little bump out on the very front face of the house, that's just a new landing location.
Mm-hmm.
The addition to the right of that is just a new porch, and then the addition off the back of the house is just a new deck extension. So they're not additions to the main living
Okay.
area of the house.
Well, they're outside the 100, but just trying to look at the whole scope of this. And then this piece where there's a retaining wall, I'm just trying to figure out the grades. So it looks like the grade sort of at the top of that ramp might be 43, and then it drops down. It must drop down like 6 or 7 feet, right? To get if a car's going underneath there.
Yeah, I know it goes down a few feet. The exact number, I'd have to look at it.
Well, if it's a garage,
Yeah,
it's okay. Um, so when they cut is there asphalt going down that ramp now, James? Do you know?
there is.
Okay. And then there's more asphalt in the backyard. Do you know the extent of that? Is it where that so there's a black line that's next to the retaining wall, and then it sort of comes out and it's squared off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the area that's asphalt is right like in where that number 43 is.
Yeah, the asphalt limit is, if you can see the proposed gravel driveway
Mm-hmm.
label within that driveway, it's just to like the up above and to the right of it. That little lighter line there that is like a right angle, that's the limit of the existing pavement.
Okay. Um, and Eric, you were mentioning that you could see some of this. What is the extent of that clearing, like the time frame on that?
Opening.
Can you tell
Goes back
roughly?
to, yeah. So I mean, there was substantial tree canopy during the growing season, as recent as the 30th of July, 2022, and then by April of 23, that canopy had disappeared, and it looks like there was regrading efforts at that time with that tree clearing.
Okay. There's no way of
And that
knowing.
goes
Go ahead.
and I'm just no, I just wanted to clarify that that was within the 50, up to what appears to be the marked wetland edge.
From the 50 to the marked wetland edge has been cleared more from
It
20
appears so.
from what you can see.
Yeah.
Can you make out that stone wall or anything with a canopy on it before?
I couldn't see the canopy with the canopy. I couldn't see the stone wall with the canopy
Okay.
in 22. And it's hard to judge what is and what isn't stone
Right.
wall or felled trees in the 2nd of April 23 shot.
James, do you have any idea how when this lawn was established or anything like that?
No, unfortunately, I don't. Let me see here. I just want to see if we know when the survey was done. So we surveyed this past January, but before that, I couldn't say.
I
Okay.
do think in the last few years, Amy had spoken with the owner
About the
about
clearing,
some work about work in the backyard.
but they never came before the commission. It was
Yeah, they've stopped what they were doing, and it was understood that at that point going forward, any work you would need to come to the commission.
okay.
It was already done.
Um,
Eric, do you see the kind of like odd shading around the perimeter in the April image? What do you think that, like, I'm just wondering if it's a fence or like it's just kind of odd.
Yeah, on the April 10th of 24. I
Yeah,
couldn't tell if that was a regrade elevation or just a
yeah,
fence, like a stockade fence is what I assumed it was because the survey doesn't show that as being a,
right.
topographical change. So I assume that
Yeah.
was like a
Well,
stockade
but
fence.
yeah, who knows? It's
Um,
not, doesn't look like it was there last July, so it's kind of new.
Correct.
I mean, making an assumption that the lawn's been there for a significant amount of time, we don't really know that for certain. Um, and there's a stone wall in the backyard, but we don't know how old that is either. Um, James, do you think that this could be shifted forward at least 2 or 3 feet to get rather than having the corner of that building actually touching the 50, or do you? I guess it's one way I look at this, and it's all in grass. It's not like they're up against a wetlands line. It's a lawn, and it's a cleared, improved area. So, and I'm assuming it's gonna remain all that is lawn. So it's not like they're up against something tighter. I agree. We want to get some replicate, replication or replacement of the tree in some fashion. What would anybody think about, rather than have them do a planting that's just 5 foot wide across the back? There's a place where if the wetlands planting went up to where the 50 crosses over the stone wall, so fill that area in with plantings, but have a much larger area of plantings fill out from the boulder across to where the car tent was. Do you follow me? Sort of like a line all the way across the yard with a stone wall, or maybe even a little closer to the barn. So the replication wouldn't be just a 5 foot strip, but rather a larger area where those couple of large trees are.
So like a 20
Yeah.
foot strip, Frank?
It's not a strip. It'd just be like
Well,
fill in that right now the wetlands line goes more towards the rear of the property, but they have sort of developed a line with that stone wall. And all I'm saying is from that boulder, from the edge of the
oh,
boulder that's closest to the house,
yeah.
if you drew a line, a little curvy or whatever, and went over to where the front of the carport is and vegetate that area as opposed to a strip that just ran across the back and some of it's on the other side of the stone wall. That's what I'm suggesting.
And that's I don't remember that area really being anything. It was sort of storing stuff. It wasn't lawn or anything of any value.
Right.
Frank,
Yes.
um, Eric, you may have to help me on this, but if they're going to take out a 10-inch tree, shouldn't that planting plan include several trees?
Yeah, I would
I,
say. I mean,
well, yeah, Ferrick's been saying that trees have been removed, and that the area that I'm talking about could be vegetated. We could also ask for a couple of trees in the yard.
Yeah, I think we need to. Somewhere included in a planting plan should be some trees to take care of the one they're pulling out and maybe others that they pulled out.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that your suggestion is out of bounds, Frank. I think that having a larger chunk of area um, for mitigation purposes is appropriate given the site.
So a combination of that, and I would be less inclined to be worried about the barn being right up against the 50
Hmm.
as getting that area vegetated and maybe 2 or 3 3 or 4 inch trees of some sort
Right.
in that backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's just I think we'd be better served with something like that.
I can see that making sense. I totally support that. I'm wondering what we could be uh, doing to perhaps get some surety on the planting plan actually happening. Um,
It happened before they built the garage.
Well,
that might be hard.
or at least we just did another project where we had to do stormwater and the owner had to place, a surety saying that
Yeah.
that would be there until things were planted. Um,
Oh, then let's do that.
I
Not a
think
bad
that's not a
idea.
bad idea.
I think it's a good idea.
Oh, and some wetland markers because we love those.
There you go.
You mean conservation
I
markers?
support that.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Conservation
Conservation
markers.
markers.
So how do we want to move forward? Do we want to try to close this and put them in conditions? Do you want to continue it and come back with that plan?
I hate to make them
I
come
would
back, but
prefer you continue it and come back with
Right.
a plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. James, you think you can get that on a plan?
Yeah, I think that's totally doable. Can we continue to the next available hearing?
Yes.
19th?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Great.
So I'll make a motion. Oh, do you want to ask the audience, Frank?
I think I did.
Oh, did you? I don't know. I'm sleeping. I make a motion to continue to August 19th.
That's Penny. Do I have a second?
Second from
will.
Jen.
Great. All in favor, Richard
Yep. Yes.
and Brendan
Yes.
and Eric?
Yeah.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
So now we are on to
6 Gardner.
sorry. 26 Gardner. And is that are we continued that or is that a new hearing?
You do need to open this one.
The new.
And new.
Oh, ho.
Oh, I got it. Sorry. On August 5th, 2024, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application for Jason, excuse me, and Catherine Catlender for work related to construction of a deck and plunge pool at location 26 Gardner Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information on how to access the virtual meetings available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay.
And I think we have James Garfield on this also for this one.
Yes. So again, James Garfield with Morse Engineering, representing the applicant for this notice of intent for a plunge pool and patio. This is a 34,500 square foot property, currently developed with a single family home built in 1969 per the assessor's card. Subject resource areas at this site consist of bordering vegetated wetland as well as salt marsh. And we have the 50 and 100 foot buffer zone to those items shown on the plan as well. So what we're proposing is a 9-foot by 16-foot plunge pool and an associated patio within the 100-foot buffer to those resources. The proposed work is largely within the footprint of a previously existing patio, which was just removed in 2023. That patio is actually shown at the top right corner of this plan set in a photograph. Only a small portion of the proposed patio lies within the 50-foot buffer, but it's entirely within the footprint of that previously constructed patio. The proposed patio will be entirely pervious, So the project only results in a 3.2% increase in impervious area, which is just the entirety of the plunge pool. All work is within previously disturbed areas. A mulch sock is proposed down gradient of the proposed work, and we've also proposed 4 conservation posts adjacent to the wetlands. So with that, I'll pass it back to the commission for questions.
Okay, thank you, Jen.
I don't have any questions for this one. I mean, this would be for maybe later, but the conditions for this would include instructions for the pool and engineer confirming the limit of work, and probably not, we didn't review this line, so not accepting the line, but otherwise I didn't have any questions about the project.
Okay. Jen, when you just it made me think, the last on Tilden Road, did we have that wetland line confirmed, or is that
We
the
didn't have it reviewed, but we did get the details from the review on it, and was able to go to the site and see it, so it made sense where it was.
Okay. All right. Um, you good for the moment?
Yes.
Okay. Jen?
Um, yeah. Did they come before us to remove the patio, or, and I'm just not remembering that, or is this just something that happened?
Probably
I
just.
I do not remember them coming to us to remove the patio.
Okay. Um, I guess I'm a little like the buffer, the 50-foot line feels so weird to me based on the way it's like shaped on the map. Um, so I'm kind of a little bit confused by that. Um, and James, is the patio that is in the 50, is that new or
Patio and
replacing?
Yeah.
Uh,
So just to speak to those 2 items, the reason that the 50-foot buffer has kind of an unusual shape is because we do have 2 resources here. The salt marsh kind of parallels the rear lot line, and then there's a drainage ditch that has a bordering vegetated wetland kind of surrounding it. And so
oh
that
yeah, okay,
bumps way up. So that odd looking shapes just because you're looking at 2 buffer zones combined.
got it. Thank
And then
you.
as far as the patio goes, so kind of the timeline here, they had a patio, they removed it, but now they're coming back and they actually want to put one back where it was. But we think that to be reasonable. I mean, it was a previously pervious patio, and we're doing a new, just updated pervious patio. Same footprint as where it previously existed in the 50, just last year.
Yeah.
Hmm. With the difference being the limit of work is far more into the 50 than.
Right. And we could pull that forward if we had to. I think that that is more to the point of having access to actually
Mhm.
construct the swimming pool.
Well, it's realistic, which I actually appreciate, as opposed to sometimes when it's just not realistic. Um, I think I'm okay for now. Thanks, James.
No problem.
Okay. Brendan?
Um, I think that my only questions so far have been answered. Um, yeah, I'm gonna hold.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, I think I'm all set with the patio, and the construction of the pool. I think as Jen had alluded to just within the orders, which it appears there already is, just in terms of like backwashing and dewatering, the pool for seasonal use, that all of that water be handled properly, given its adjacency to some resource areas. Other than that, I think I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I did forget.
Sure.
So, I mean, we've removed patio in the 50 and we're putting a patio back in there. We're doing this work in 100. Is there any mitigation proposed?
Well, that was a question, if one of you didn't bring it up, that I would. So, James?
We don't have any mitigation currently proposed, no.
Are those wetlands markers already out there?
They're not. Those are proposed.
Okay. All right. Brendan, we can circle back. Why don't we keep going for a minute? And then Derek, did you comment?
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
But I should have mentioned some mitigation, but I think.
All right, let's go through the other members and you guys can think about it for a minute. Penny?
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing, Penny, before you jump in? So I don't know how many of you folks were involved in this drainage
That's
ditch.
what I was going to mention.
But that was a long, drawn out affair. Trying to get this drainage ditch in the right spot and corrected and whatnot. This was.
I don't think it was ever the wetlands.
But I think that was something that finally came as a compromise. If I'm not mistaken, that line might have been over a little bit more, and then it was shifted to try to get it into the right of way, and it was a long, arduous series of hearings. So that was the end result of shifting that pipe and getting it in the right location and having it discharge and all that sort of thing. So that's been looked at for quite a while. I'm sorry, go ahead, Penny.
Yeah, no, that was really on his neighbor's property. The nightmare was this man was just I don't know what he was, but that's my concern. I don't remember the easement being that far over, but maybe that's where we moved it to because it was so controversial back when that was all going on. And I just I want to be sure, the marsh is right down there, like Eric said, that the pool, you got to be real careful in this area with your backwash and so forth and so on. How that gets into the ground before it gets into the marsh and the critters, because that's unless it's a saltwater pool, that might make a difference. But if it's a freshwater, you got to be so careful over there. But yeah, no, I don't really have anything else, but I do think we need some mitigation because the patio is going into the 50-foot buffer. So
Okay.
should get something for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
I hate to admit this, but I'm totally confused. James, it says on the right-hand patio that the limit of patio was removed in early 2023. Then it says on the left-hand one that goes into the 50. That's the one that's being put back?
Jen, you have the existing conditions plan. Would you mind just pulling that up to compare? This is the existing conditions plan, and you can see the limit of the patio that was removed in early 2023. It's a dashed line.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that. So the pool and patio is not entirely within the limits of this, but the vast majority of it falls within that area where the patio previously existed.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if we can go back to the first one we were looking at.
The other one, not,
No,
oh,
that's all right.
No, this,
oh, yeah.
Oh, I see. Where the arrow is going over here on the right of the pool, to the right of the pool, that's where the statement off says limit of patio removed. So I was assuming that that is a second patio. I'm not an engineer, so I misread things, but that's where I was confused.
Yep.
Hmm.
So that's
Right,
it's the same line. They just
Okay.
overlap in
All right.
on multiple lines.
Okay. Then I would go back to the first comment, which I think you said, maybe we could pull back a little bit on the 50 after the pool is in and all that. And I personally would like to see that. Remember when you said that?
Are you talking to me, Rich?
Yes, I am, James. I'm sorry. Yeah, you said earlier, I think it was maybe when Jen was speaking, that where it goes into the 50, that might be needed in order to do the work for the pool, but maybe it could be cut back after that. And I'd like to see that if it could be.
I'm sorry. I was speaking about the erosion control line,
Okay.
just so they had enough access to get into the pool.
Yep.
And I was saying that we could shrink that slightly, but it will need to be somewhat wide enough to get machinery back there.
Okay.
So he wasn't talking about the patio, Richard.
Okay. I got it. I'd still like to see that, but okay.
Yeah.
On the whole, actually, I'm good.
Well, we'll get mitigation, let's hope.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Frank.
okay, thank you. Do we have anybody in the audience? Okay. So just looking the there's a 2-inch force main that's being rerouted. Is that pump around the house? What does that go to?
Yeah, so currently it comes out the back of the house and then it does a few bends to get around the left side and then ties into the main line that comes out the front into
Oh,
that existing septic tank.
okay.
It currently is right nicking where that pool wants to go. So we're just calling out a note to that portion of the 2-inch PVC force main is just going to get rerouted. Just so it's outside of that new pool area.
Okay. Um, I mean, I get it that they had one there before. It's too bad that they didn't come before the commission with some of the work that was in the 50. Um, just looking to see what would be some meaningful mitigation for this property. I mean, they're not doing anything really substantial other than that corner. But just wondering what might be helpful here. We have the markers in, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm take some thoughts from anybody if you wanted to give a little direction to James.
Well, there is a landscaping area out there. Can that be increased with plants and plantings off to the right-hand side, right in front of the 50-foot buffer? There's an area that's marked as landscaping. Yep, right there.
Do the markers need to be on the line? Can they be farther up?
I
Or is
don't
that
think,
kind of a natural place for them to be? Like that's where the
yeah, I mean, the lawn goes right up to the salt marsh. might look odd in the middle of the yard and they'd have to mow around it, but
Hmm.
Well,
Well, what if we did I was gonna say, just what if within that, where the markers are, there's a mitigation planting strip that delineates the lawn from the resource area, and the markers are within that. Also providing sort of a, quite literally, a buffer to the resource area for any potential excess water that um, might be coming down that lawn area. Richard had a good idea as well of expanding one of the existing beds. Um, I might I might say the one directly in front of the pool to widen that one, but for the sake of the markers, maybe on that marsh side, a buffer strip there would also make some sense to Jen's point too.
just we looked at the last one, sort of filling in. If a line were drawn from the wetlands marker that's nearest the drainage outlet towards the marsh, it's called out as proposed conservation post typical of 4 with the arrow going to it. If again you pulled some sort of line across to the other wetlands marker and had that area revegetated.
yeah, I mean, that makes
Just for
sense to me, Frank.
clarification, Frank,
Yeah,
are you talking about the one, not the one underneath the 34-inch DBH tree, but the one between that one under the tree and the one with the call out?
right. I mean, just so wetlands, actually, it's wetlands marker 9, and you would go across to that proposed wetlands marker that's on the property line. So
Okay.
wetlands flag 9 across to there. I mean, I'm just trying to take in a couple of, it doesn't need to be symmetrical, but just trying to find a couple areas that get really closer to the marsh and whatnot, and pull them away a little bit. So the lawn didn't extend quite that far towards the marsh in that area. That's a thought. It's not a large area, but neither is the encroachment.
Are you there, James?
Yeah, there was
I'm here.
the
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if anybody else had other comments, but I mean, I'm totally fine with that, Frank. If we wanted to add that as a condition.
Again, open to members thinking about it. I'm just I'm lobbing one out there, but if anybody's got, or
Yeah,
Jen or somebody.
I guess I just keep looking at that one corner, wishing there was more vegetation. My directions are off. I guess northeast, I think.
Yeah.
But what? Yeah, that's yes, yes.
Kind of see where the numbers 4-1-2.
yeah.
I mean, that's the area that I'm thinking.
Okay. Yep.
And there's 2 little areas where it gets closer, or moves closer to the marsh and whatever. It's where, wetlands flag 6 is. So
It'd be yeah. So I don't know
if
whether you're suggesting plantings or whether like put markers to kind of stop doing anything back there.
I was thinking
Oh,
maybe some sort of vegetation
Okay.
between those 2 wetlands markers, and just kind of straighten out that area. Again,
Hmm.
it doesn't need to be symmetrical. It'd be nice if if it goes out a little or in a little, just so it's not a straight line. But I think if that little area were vegetated, the lawn, and not be lawn anymore, that would be a reasonable gain for what they're doing in the 50. That's my logic.
Yeah, and I think that it would be appropriate to not ask for, much more than perennial plantings, maybe a couple shrubs, not looking to break the bank or make this too difficult, uh, the climb. But I think that vegetation, to your point, Frank, makes a
I,
lot of sense.
I'd agree with that. Okay. On this one, do you think we can close this and that plan can come to us as part of the orders, Jen? Or do you want to wait and get a plan?
The only thing we're changing is the planting area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we
Or
can,
we're going to add
for
a planting area.
planting area, is that
Yeah.
correct? I'm not missing something.
And well,
Um,
we wanted that and you wanted more information on the discharge on the pool, right?
well, I was, okay.
That's gonna be part of
Um,
the conditions,
that'll just be in the conditions
right?
to
Okay.
just, um, I'm okay with us saying we are accepting a planting plan and and James, you can get that to us in the next couple days. So, but okay, but here's the thing is, this is such a simple question. Do we just close or do we, I don't want to issue because I don't have it yet.
Yeah.
So,
No, I would
We'll
close. I
just
wouldn't
close.
issue. I would just close with that with us getting that information.
then let's just continue and the next one will close and issue. We
Okay.
have the orders drafted, so we'll be ready to roll with the
Okay.
next meeting. I'd rather just have the one plan with everything on it.
Okay. All right.
make a
So
motion.
can I get a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue to August 19th.
I'll second it.
Okay. And you, James, you understand what we're looking for?
I do.
Okay.
You
So
send-
that was a motion by Penny, a second by Richard. I'm all in favor. Jen,
Yep.
Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. 280 Central Ave.
You don't have to open this one. We've continued it. We haven't discussed it though. We haven't had it, presented to us yet, but we do have the pile plan and everything now.
Okay.
I think I unmuted Darren Grady for presenting 280.
Yes, good evening. My name is Darren Grady with Grady Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Jonathan and Lisa Fabrizio for the project at 280 Central Avenue. Um, the project itself sits on Barrier Beach, and on the ocean side of the dwelling, they're sitting in the coastal dune. There's a coastal beach on the ocean side of the wetland line shown. We are also in land subject to coastal flowage, velocity elevation 18. The project will raise the house to take it out of the flood zone. It will relocate a septic tank from on the current deck of the dwelling to beneath the deck, and it will still meet the FEMA flood zone regulations. The plan shown on the left is the existing conditions, shows that this is on piles already. It's the elevation here is existing elevation. First floor is 18.49. So it's slightly below what we need for FEMA compliance. The new one on the right show at first floor elevation at 24, and this will allow the septic tank to be the bottom of the septic tank to be put above elevation 18. Let's see.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but just for 1 second, we probably should have announced this at the beginning. We are having a hearing for 279, 281 Old Oak and Bucket Road. However, the applicant is requesting that we continue it immediately, right, Jen?
Correct. We're not going to discuss that one.
So there won't be debate on that. We should have announced that at the start of the meeting in case someone was hanging for that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. It gave me time to recollect my thoughts. The house shown on the left is the same house as shown on the right. It's being relocated further towards the ocean. And again, the higher it's being raised above the velocity zone. The access for the stairs in here have increased in size just because of the elevation that this is proposed at. All the utilities will be disconnected and reconnected with a new location. The existing leaching field will be able to remain. There's very little piles going into the leaching area, and the size of it will work. The Board of Health approved this, and also the ZBA has or the building inspector has given his opinion that it does not need to go to ZBA. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Jen?
I do have a couple, I guess, questions, concerns. The house is the same house is going up higher, um, but it's moving closer to the ocean, and the deck is also increasing and moving closer to the ocean. I'm concerned about that. And then I know the septic has been approved. I guess I'm also concerned though that it's moving closer. It'll be kind of towards the front of the house, and then the whole house is moving closer to the ocean. Any, is there a reason for the location of the septic, and is there any kind of explanation for everything going closer to the ocean?
Yeah, yes. So the location of the proposed house is approximately it's a little bit further out than the one on the right and a little bit less out than the one on the left. And it kind of averages where they sit on the beach, and that's the reason.
Oh, I know.
Okay, and then the septic, I know it's going to be elevated, it'll be under the deck, but I guess I just was curious as to the location for it to be on, on the front of the house versus the back of the house.
Yep. So the existing septic tank was over there. The plumbing, the house is moving back, so the plumbing is moving back. So it seemed like that was a easier place to connect it to.
Okay, I think I've sent out to the commission about the size of, the increase in the deck. That's really the biggest change.
Okay.
In addition to everything going toward the beach. So I don't have anything else. It sounds like the reason for going towards was sort of pick the average of the other two houses. Um,
That is correct.
okay. I I just find that a little concerning. But those are all my questions for now.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Sure. So maybe I missed it, but has Board of Health, or I'm sure I missed it, but has Board of Health already approved the septic or not?
They have approved the septic.
Okay. And uh, the reason for moving the septic closer to the resource area is because it'll be easier?
So the house is moving back. So the plumbing connection is just easier where that septic tank is because it remains adjacent to the house, and the
Uh-huh.
plumbing already goes back in that direction.
What's the distance that it's moving closer to the resource area?
It's a good question. Hold on one sec. It's about It's moving about 30 feet. It'll have a setback of about 20, 3 feet to that wetland line, but it's in a resource area. It's in the coastal dune at this point. That distance
Mhm.
away is from the coastal beach. It's also on a barrier beach, so it's within the resource area.
Yeah, I get it. It's just still like moving closer to it's moving within one resource area, but it's moving closer to another. Um, so I guess uh I don't love that. Um, so that would be uh my concern on that, Frank.
I
All
think
right.
we lost Frank. He's there, but
Penny, do you have any questions?
yeah, well, I don't think the septic should move. I think you should keep the septic in the same spot. I understand why they want to move the house forward. It's for their view because they're being blocked, I guess,
Yeah.
by the neighbor. So I can understand that, but I really think you need to finagle the pipes and leave the new septic in the same spot as the old. I really don't like that going closer
Hmm.
to the resource area. That yeah, that really bothers me. I can handle the house and the deck, but not the septic. I don't think it's
Yeah.
necessary. Spend the money and do the piping.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um,
Okay, thank you. Did I lose my audio for a
Yeah,
You
minute?
you
did.
did.
yeah.
You did.
Sorry about that. I don't know
It's
how that
me too.
happened. So thanks. I heard all of you though, which is helpful. Richard?
I don't like it.
Okay.
Sorry to be waffling about it. This is a part of the north end of Humrock Beach, which is eroding away. There are a lot of it that is actually getting wider, and I am not in favor of one size fits all in a lot of cases. But I understand rationally why they would want to improve their view to the south and maybe to the north. They can still see Spain from where they are. And I just don't think it's a wise thing to move that closer to the beach, and especially that part of Hamright Beach, which is um, gradually wasting away. I'm glad they're raising the house. No problem with that. I have less of an issue maybe with the expansion on the deck if the house was back where it is now. But I'm really not all in favor of it moving closer to the beach. That's all I got
Thank
to
you.
say.
Thank you, Richard. Brendan?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Richard. Things are getting really, really close to the resource area here, and in particular, the septic. I think that like Penny said, it needs to be kept where it was and not moved closer. Uh, Even though it is within a resource area, as was pointed out, um, it shouldn't get. Yeah, that's it. Bye.
Okay. Eric?
Um, yeah, I think it's good that we're raising to meet FEMA standards, but in no world could I give approval to something moving into another resource area, meaning the coastal beach, nor move it closer to the ocean. There's just absolutely no way, and that's both the septic and the house. I understand the thought process on wanting to move it, but that doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do, especially given the fact that the deck does go into another resource area and do have rising sea levels. So there just seems to be no real good reason to be moving this closer to the ocean. I just, yeah, I can't be on board with that.
Okay. Have I gotten to everybody so far?
Yeah, I think so.
Do we have anybody in the audience?
I don't know if Jonathan Fabrizio is on here. Just in case he is, he may want to say something.
I don't see him. If he is and wants to raise his hand, but I don't. I think everybody on here I can identify, and so I don't see him. So what I hear is the concerns are the house moving closer
The ocean.
And the
towards the
septic.
ocean and the septic, not so much the deck square footage increasing. Um, and I do want to say, I think I read, and this is just a good thing, that their stairs that they're proposing are removable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I guess I didn't ask about the deck being attached to the house, but they are elevating to appropriate height for the velocity zone. Um,
Jen, you raise a good point. The deck should not be directly connected to the house.
No, they're
Most
not
of them down
supposed to
here
be
are
anymore.
not. Right.
Even if everything is the proper height, though.
No.
Right.
Yeah,
And then, yeah,
I think the only time that the decks sometimes are disconnected if they're in different velocity zones.
Right.
right. The house is in AE, but the deck is in velocity, and they don't.
So I don't think that's an issue here.
Yeah,
Right.
but it is good that the stairs are coming up,
Movable,
that they
yes.
can during a storm or during the winter. And um, what was my other comment? Hmm.
While
I
you're
know it.
thinking while you're
Yeah.
thinking about that, Jen, so just and on 282, the coastal zone line, coastal dune line starts at that concrete because this is a concrete revetment or something out in front of that house that
Hmm.
we wouldn't
Right.
condition today, but it is there. But then what you see is that dune line continues to come towards the river,
Mm-hmm.
and then it starts to turn back just a little bit. So in kind of backing up what several folks have said, I don't quite get the logic of moving this thing forward when the coastal dune line is moving towards the house, and then we're trying to move the house towards that dune line.
Right.
I mean, I think that would be the big thing to hang your thoughts on here is the dune line is already moving towards the house, and now we're advancing the house towards that. That
Yeah.
I don't
Which
see
is force.
I don't see that as being
Doesn't make
a
sense.
really great idea.
Nope.
I can review that with my client.
That to me alone would say, I mean, right now the deck is overhanging that dune
In
line,
line. That's right.
Well, wait.
right?
The
The
proposed deck
the
is over.
proposed,
Right.
that's right. I'm
Correct.
sorry, Jen, I
Correct.
should have said proposed deck. And it does on the next door neighbor. That's true. So it's not like it's not, and then the other neighbor has a concrete wall.
Hmm.
So who knows where the real coastal dune line would be. I don't know where it is on the other side of that house, but my concern would be advancing this house towards the ocean when the dune line is actually coming the other way.
Right. You're going into it. You're potentially adversely affecting it,
Yep.
especially considering you're covering the whole site. Um, I mean, I know it's not vegetated, but it is a lot of coverage.
And I also agree that we had this discussions about the houses in mine and trying to get the septic and those things as far from that line as possible. And I think if it's viable, that should be pulled back as well. Is that septic tank on piles or is that buried?
That's correct. It will be on piles.
So the tank is elevated.
Correct.
Okay. But below the elevation of the house.
Yes, it's set so you could take off a panel out of the deck and be able to access and pump it.
Okay. And that doesn't have to be above the line, the septic tank. I'm just trying to remember how that works.
The way I had viewed it was that it has to be outside of it, so I've set the bottom at 18.1. It's not like a structure like the house that has to be above the velocity zone by I think 2 feet.
Okay. So the bottom of that septic system is about 6 feet below the 6.5 feet below the finished floor.
Right. So the depth on the septic tank is about 4.5 feet. And
From the,
so I did spend some time trying to find a shallower tank
yep.
that was plastic and it uh I this is the one I ended up finding.
Okay. So the bottom of that septic tank would be how far above the existing grade?
About 10, oh, actually it's elevation 12 there, so it'd be 6 feet. If it comes out front, it could be as much as 8 feet, like where that
Okay.
10 line's coming through.
So is everybody following that? The house is up at 24, but the
Yeah.
bottom of the septic tank is going to be about 6 feet above, which which is almost 10 feet. The underside of that house is 10 feet from the grade, but the bottom of the septic system is, or the septic tank rather, is about 6 feet above grade, 6 to 8 feet.
So to Frank, to my way of thinking, all the more reason not to move the house forward.
Okay.
Leave everything where it is.
Okay. Um, do you want to continue this? And
Yes, can we please?
yeah, how much time do you think you're going to need to?
If we can get a month.
Okay, so that's September 9th, September 9th.
Okay.
9/9.
9/9, got it.
Okay. So I'll make a motion, Frank,
Yep.
to continue 280 Central Ave to September 9th.
That's a motion from Penny,
Second
a
it. I'll second
second
it.
from Richard. All in favor, Jen,
Yep.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Eric.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We are on to
Old
You do
Oak.
opening Old Oaken Bucket.
on um August 5th at 6 p.m. Town of Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the notice of intent application of Lovendale LLC for work related to the proposed housing development of 19 single-family homes at location 279 to 281 Old Oaken Bucket Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties, excuse me, are invited to attend. Information on how to access virtual meetings available on the town website. And then we have a request from Jeffrey DeLisi requesting that we continue this hearing until August 19th. Can we do that?
Jen, is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, I
Okay.
make a motion, we continue 279, 281 Old Oaken Bucket to August 19th.
Okay. And so you want to second that?
I will second
Second
that,
from
Brendan.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I think Brendan got that one. Wasn't very
good.
nice of him, but he did it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Richard
At least you
No, that's
spoke up.
fine.
and Jen
Yep.
and Eric.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Frank.
And Frank, yes. Thanks, Penny. So now we're on to 0 Oceanside Drive on August 5th, 2024, 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the request for a determination of applicability filed by Eve Quinn
Quinquina.
Cinquino. Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's okay.
For oceanographic research at location 0, Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the website. Good evening.
Hello. I'm presenting for this. Would it be at all possible to share some slides I have on my screen, or?
We only have it so that we share from our side.
Okay, that's fine.
Josh, I think I have one slide set up that's got maybe 4 images on it. Yeah, I think is that helpful?
Yes, that will be helpful.
Okay.
So my name is Eve Cinquino. I'm representing Woods Hole in this tonight. My colleague Anthony Krinsich is also here. We are researchers at Woods Hole, and we work with these radio systems that are able to monitor surface currents, winds, and waves offshore. They work by sending out radio signals similar to a ham radio, and they bounce off ocean waves and are received back at these antennas. You can see an example of similar antennas we have at Horseneck Beach State Reserve on this top right picture. We're proposing an installation of these antennas at 0 Oceanside Drive, which is abutted by 68 and 94 Oceanside Drive. We originally proposed this location marked in orange, but in a site visit last week with Corey Miles, who's town planner, we decided on a location further north that would be a little bit more out of the way to abutters and out of the town's way, because I think this portion of this lot to the south is used in winter storm cleanup. Yeah. So we propose to put this array of antennas, which is 24 feet by 24 feet, up in the north area of this lot, and then a small electronics enclosure that would be mounted on wooden posts that would be 6 feet tall, 2 feet deep, and 3 feet wide. I guess do you have any initial questions on that?
Well, one question, if I may. The enclosed area, is that sort of like a kiosk type situation that's not a shed? Okay.
It's not a shed. It's like an electronic stand, I guess similar to what you would imagine like a trailhead sign, but kind of closed off on all sides.
Okay. And this same kind of strip of beach, but
Mhm.
the north end of it.
Yes. So if you see that outfall that heads out onto the beach, it would be slightly north of that.
Okay. Those are my questions for now.
Do you want to keep presenting, or do you want to hear feedback from the other commission members?
I guess the other things I wanted to share, we have an existing site at Fourth Cliff Recreation Area, just down the road, that we've had for a couple of years doing similar research. And we're hoping to install this site and then a few others down through Duxbury to create like a high resolution network of winds, waves, and ocean currents along the South Shore. This data gets sent in real time to NOAA and the Coast Guard. And the posts will be hand buried. Everything will be done by hand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Eric,
Yeah, I think that temporary nature of this and everything's going to be hand installed, I think is important um, relative to the location that's being put. I do find it fascinating the type of information that you're going to be able to gather. I guess sort of an off-topic question, relative to commission, but in what way will this data be implemented beyond just collecting? Like, what are you hoping to achieve through, the collation of this data?
Yeah, so we've had a existing long-term monitoring program for a while that just sends real-time data. But what the real goal of this experimental project, which we're hoping to install, is to work with towns to understand how we can share data in a way that's useful and beneficial to them. So we've talked to Corey Miles, who's I think on this call tonight, and then we've talked with some other people about like just trying to create data products that are actually useful to real users like you guys for coastal resiliency.
Yeah, wonderful. I read the narrative and just didn't know if there was anything else to add to that. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
hey, thanks, Eric. Brendan?
Yeah, I don't have any questions on this at all. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
All good. Thanks for sharing all that detail. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Penny?
Nope, sounds like a great project to me.
You know what? I just looked over and saw Corey's hand is raised. I don't know if she wanted to add to this before that, but can I finish up with Richard and then put Corey on? So, Richard?
So this is moving, if I just want to make sure I have it right, it's moving just slightly north to where that orange square is, correct?
It's
It's
north
the-
of the outfall, so not where the orange square is. It's going to be on the northern half of that area.
But still in front of the town-owned property.
Well, and this beach is town-owned.
Understood. I'm good.
Okay. Can we add Corey if she like get her input?
Sure. Yeah, this is Corey Miles. I'm the coastal management officer, not the town planner.
sorry.
Just what that's okay. I did talk with Eve about this project and met with the researchers at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute on site, and I looked at what they're trying to collect, what kind of information they're trying to collect. And I think it would be beneficial for town projects in the future because we've done beach nourishment just north of there in North Scituate Beach. And any additional information we can have regarding sediment transport, wind and wave conditions that affect our coastline, I think is valuable. And since this is, it's a temporary project, it's, a Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute is, world renowned for their science and their collaboration with NOAA. I think it is really valuable, and I would like to, support this project.
Yeah.
Thank you, Corey.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions for either Corey?
If I may ask, it'd be good to have
Or Eve, I'm sorry.
an updated bit of information in the file for the new location. And I did want to add, I do think Eve and Corey have spoken with DPW on the location. And then next up would be town administrator and select board as far as permission to install as well.
But
Okay.
Have you crossed any of those bridges yet, Corey?
Hold on. I can unmute Corey, but no, they've not gone to select board yet. They were
No,
waiting for us first.
yeah, so I did talk to Michelle today, so we'll have to do the same presentation in front of the select board too to get their approval to use town land for this project.
Okay. Maybe I'd make a suggestion that we could actually give our support to this. It seems to make a lot of sense to me, and when you're in front of the select board, if the members agree, take a vote, but we would vote to encourage this or give it our support.
Well, won't our ruling tonight do that, Frank?
It will, but I just don't think it's a bad idea.
Oh,
It's
no.
it seems like it's information that would be helpful over time, and I just think once we vote, then maybe we could also give some sort of additional support.
Sounds like a plan.
I can't imagine they wouldn't consider it, but I don't think it hurts. So, um, anything else either of you want to add?
No,
The only thing I'd ask is that we could get some input as you start to get some information. That'd be
Yep.
fun to be helpful to know. So, I'll take a motion
I make a motion for a -3.
and a second
I'll second that.
from Eric. All in favor, Richard
Yes.
and Jen
Yep.
and Brendan
Yes.
and Frank. Yes, great. We're really looking. When does that when will you start to do this? If you get the nod.
Thank you. We will probably start installation in the fall if everything goes smoothly.
Great. Good, good. Well, good luck with all this.
Great. Thanks for your support.
Thank you.
And I can send over an updated map with the new location if you'd like that.
Perfect.
That would
Thank
be
you.
helpful. Yes,
Yeah.
please. Thanks so
Thank you.
much. Okay, on August 5th at 6 p.m., the Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws for after the fact request for determination of applicability filed by Mary Beth Jodis for landscaping work at location 18 Oliver Street, Scituate. Abutters of the interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda or on the website.
I'm not sure if they are on the call. This was an after the fact. If they can raise their hand, I can unmute them. I'm, otherwise, I'm not sure if we just continue to the next meeting, as far as.
Maybe can you fill us in a little bit, Jen?
Sure. So, part of their yard, they removed the vegetation that was there and put in new plantings. So a couple of abutters called and we sent them a letter to contact us. They stopped doing any more plantings. And so this is, I think what you're looking at is the image of what's there right now. So then I guess that's sort of the question is what's next, like what are we good with what they're doing with the additional plants they are hoping to put in, or do we want something else to happen in the area? But
Jen,
anyway, they did respond to a to their letter and filed a after the fact RDA.
Jen, do you have the picture of the wasteland it was on the ground that's in the
Yeah, this is what it was
no,
before.
Yeah.
there's another picture
Oh,
that I have that was in the
okay.
application.
Okay.
that it was a complete wasteland.
Frank?
Just dirt and burnt something. I
Frank?
can't show you my
Are,
picture, but
Jen, is this like, is it the corner that seems very vegetated that was,
Yes, that's the corner. Yes.
so that seems very significant.
No, it isn't.
it
Oh,
is
okay.
Um,
Okay.
Frank, in all honesty, I probably should speak as a resident of Humrock. I probably should recuse myself because the person who owned that property was a friend who has passed away. And what Penny was alluding to is correct. That stuff looks like a lot of growth. It was all dead. It was dead for years.
I
And
have a picture of it here.
yeah,
Yeah.
so Penny is correct about that. Beyond that, they didn't contact anyone. They should have done it. And as I said, when they get on the phone, I'll probably have to recuse myself because I did know Paul and he passed away. And I think this is probably his wife or his daughter that has gotten this done.
Okay.
But it was dead. It was absolutely dead for years.
Yeah, it was a wasteland, Richard.
I'm
So I
agreeing
guess
with you, Penny.
before they do anything more,
Right.
do we want to see a plan from maybe a qualified professional to put together some appropriate
Oh,
plans
sure.
to be
If they're
there?
going to do more, yes. Yeah.
Why
Um,
would they want to do more?
What's the status of it now, Jen?
this is what's there. I don't actually have it in, they do have more they wanted to plant, but they stopped wanting to hear from us before they did anything else.
Well, I would agree that we'd like to see a full planting plan of this with plants that are compatible with that area as opposed to making it a lawn or something like that. So, um, yeah, I guess I
So they
think
yeah.
we probably do need to continue it, but it would be helpful if that information was relayed that we want to see a planting, but I don't think it should necessarily become
A
a lawn
lawn, right?
without proper plants around it, or can, grass is a good idea, some form of grass that's just going to work there along with other vegetation.
Okay, so I will ask them to submit a planting plan for the area.
For
Yeah.
the rest of it, yeah.
But so we're just gonna, what do you think we want to continue this to? You want to go out a month or 2
Let's go
weeks?
out a month. Let's go to September 9th. I think August 19th is pretty good.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue.
Can I ask you one before we say that? Are we worried, Richard? Are we worried about more erosion there? I mean, did they
No,
actually dig it up, or did?
no. I don't believe it was dug up at all. I don't believe there's any grass planted there either. That's dirt in there right now. And it is on the corner of River Street and Oliver. It is at least three or maybe four houses away from the ocean and equidistant to the river. No, you're not worried about anything.
So they don't have to do anything to stabilize it.
No, they don't.
No.
Okay.
In fact, I don't recall in the 30 plus years I've been there that part of Humrock's even ever been flooded.
Okay.
No.
Well, and now you just jinxed them, Richard.
Probably so. You're probably right, but
Yeah.
that is definitely in the higher side of the peninsula.
All right. Okay. All
Okay,
right.
so
So
I'll
I'm
make
sorry. We're putting it out to when?
September
Ninth.
9th, 9/9.
Okay. So that we have a motion for that.
Yeah, I just made it.
A second. Don't everybody jump at once.
I really can't. I have to recuse myself.
I understand. Now everybody's just being nice.
I
Eric.
know. Second from Jen.
All right. All in
Yeah.
favor, Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Frank. Yes. Thank you.
Oh.
All right. We're through that part. Now let's
Here comes the nitty gritty.
right. 181. Did other members have a chance to look at these orders?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jen, do you want to summarize some of this, or how do we
I can
want to?
try. We met with the applicant and talked about what we wanted to try to accomplish with the orders. Um, we mentioned a few things, and where we made the most progress was some areas that they proposed to add vegetation. You take away lawn and add vegetation in three different areas on their property, which seemed logical and good places to do that. Um, and so they kind of wrote up a very specific condition that mentioned the plants and mentioned the areas. Um, that's where we are with our next step as far as looking at the whole site. Um, I guess they also mentioned in their letter some other points as far as their house is concerned and the limited improvements they've done over the years as far as expanding the footprint of the house. I don't know if you want to get into that, Frank, but the big thing that's in these orders is conditioning those three other areas of places where they can plant out versus not getting into how to manage the restoration area.
So, yeah, I
Wait a
think
minute.
typically when we close a hearing, we take out all the information and then we try to develop a set of orders, and we do that without any more input. In this case, because there's been so many hearings and so many um, overlapping issues or whatever, we did try to run through this with the applicant and their attorney so that we could figure out the areas that we're actually addressing, um, and how we should go about that, um, in a um, proper manner, I guess,
Reasonable.
and not try to impose things that really didn't fall into play here, but at the same time, trying to deal with all the issues that different members have concerns. And I think what might be helpful is to go from member to member, see what we've talked about this before. We tried to address the different issues, and I want to see where folks stand on this, if that seems reasonable. Um, and I think I'll just start with Richard and work our way down.
For what was proposed in the order of conditions, I didn't have any problem with. I don't think the rest of it is a done issue, but for those conditions, I was fine with them.
Okay. Penny?
My question is, the three yellow areas, I have them before me right now. They are only plant outs to do with this particular project. They have nothing to do with the restoration area. To me, that's still a major issue.
Right.
So this only pertains, those yellow areas, to the project before us. Am I correct, Frank?
Well,
I can't accept them for the restoration area. Personally, that's me.
so if we want to address the former restoration area, we would have to do that with an enforcement order.
That's fine.
But what we tried to look at is where do we stand with some of this, and where is the applicant going? Jen, did we ever get a plan from them, or
I
drawing,
did not see a plan.
or
No,
or draw?
yeah, no, what they sent, yes, they did send something today that was just sort of shading in the three areas.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a stamped engineered plan. They took the plan they had and highlighted the areas where they would be planting. And then if we are good with that, then they will have their engineer draw it up on a plan. But they
So
did send a visual.
Can we put that up? Do we have that available to?
Have it available.
Yes,
Name and
just give us a
everyone's
moment
email.
to find it.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing that. Jen, do you have some thoughts you want to? This is going to be a little banter back and forth a little bit. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, put them forward, if you would.
Are you talking to Jen Foley or Jen
Jen,
Smith?
Jen Foley.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't.
Yep. No,
I
sorry.
didn't get that.
Daydreaming.
Yeah.
Well, I've been as clear. I was as clear as mud on this thing. So go ahead. Yeah, just in general, I'd like to see that plan so when we find that. But the orders, if there's anything within the orders right now that
No,
you dislike, you want to see whatever.
I
think-
I appreciate the work Jen's put into it. I don't have anything specific to call out.
Okay, thank you, Brendan.
I'm not gonna say I have anything specific to call out in the orders either. I really would like to see a planting plan. Curious, with at least one of the shaded areas, it seems to include their current raised bed garden. I was wondering what they planned on planting there.
Okay, Eric.
I think the thing that definitely caught my eye was on uh, page 6, down at the bottom, where it says, finally, due to the extremely poor conditions of the soil, dense clay dredging spoilage, which led to the ultimate demise of the previous plantings, the applicant shall be allowed to excavate and provide suitable planting material to allow for the long-term survival of the plantings. I don't know really ultimately what led to the demise of the initial planting. However, if there is dense clay dredged material, then maybe the list of plants that they're going off of is not suitable for the soil type at that location. So maybe instead of including the word excavate, because that just, I feel, opens the door to other activities, um, there should be a determination by an industry professional to determine which plants would be suitable for that location off of the Massachusetts coastal landscaping plan to ensure success. Because what I think the commission does not want is another situation where, oh, well, we tried, and have another situation of coming back to, well, what do we do here? I understand that it's voluntary. That's great. Love to see it. But I think that we just need to be maybe a little tighter with how we're structuring the verbiage at the end of this voluntary planting section. I mean, just off the top, looking at something like the American holly, that would probably do well in clay. It certainly would not be something I would advocate for a sandy environment so there's things going on here that I'm not sure why certain things were cherry picked off of this list and added into the verbiage here. I would love to know more. I don't mean to belabor this any more than it already has been, but I think at least as it pertains to the excavation and what a suitable planting material or a suitable plant list would be for the dredged material, because I was under the assumption that this is native soil profiles here for the resource areas that we would expect, more of a sandy loam than a clay substrate in there. So I just think we need to land somewhere in a place that's not going to open up too much potential for other activities on site.
Okay. I think when the discussion that we had was that they would put pockets of loamy material, not excavate the whole site, but when they dug for these plants to dig a little bit larger area and actually put in some more loamy material or something that some of these trees that they had proposed to grow before would grow there, Eric. I think that was, Jen, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the thought process. It wasn't to excavate out that area. It was to create pockets where they
Even
try to go ahead.
even still, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, Frank,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no. We want to. This has been going on for so long, and I'd kind of like to find a way to deal
when
with.
yeah, when we amend soil in that way, where we're digging a hole, let's say 2x times the size of the root ball, and then amend that with more amenable soil for the particular plant, understanding that beyond that zone is not good soil, the roots will exist within that pocket and not leave. It will essentially root bound itself, and the plant will eventually die. It's like trying to make, for the sake of an analogy, taking a wetland plant, putting it in a desert, but putting it into a kiddie pool. That plant isn't going to thrive there. So I'm just looking at this from a long-term sustainable approach to planting, that if the soil needs to be amended to put these plants in because they won't survive, then we need to find plants that will survive in the existing soil profile. And if that means that it's not, in alignment with the parent material that should be there because there's dredge material that's been introduced at some point, then that's the soil profile that the plant list should be based on, I think.
Okay. Um, and again, we're talking about two different. They want to create these plant areas which they proposed, and then the second part was that area that was supposed to be planted out before. And I think the other part is that they like their feeling is the only way they can keep the Phragmites down is to mow this. And our discussion was whether it should be mowed, the frequency of the mowing or the height of the grass or whatever. So I think that was part of our discussion with them.
I think it would be helpful to know if the Phragmites is still persisting and whether or not
No.
that mowing regime is even required anymore.
My guess is that they're going to pop right back up, just where they are and whatnot. But I guess that could take place. They could let it go for a while and see what does come back. Penny, did you want to?
Well, I just didn't get my answer from you. Are these 3 spots strictly for the project before us? Or are you talking about the restoration area that was never completed?
I think that these spots right now are mitigation for the work that they're doing. At the same time, we're trying to come up with something that they feel will work in that mitigation area and that we will, rather than we'd like to come up with something that we can hang our hat on the whole thing, as opposed to then conditioning a project that they've proposed and then still having an enforcement order and we're trying to pull this all together in one.
Frank.
Yeah.
The 3,
So what I read in the last letter they sent was the plantings as what you had said, mitigation for the project they proposed. I don't see anything regarding maintaining or mowing or maintenance of the restoration area.
Okay.
Um, okay.
Do
I just want to make one more point, Frank. The 3 yellow spots, they might be together a quarter, maybe a third of what the original restoration area was. Okay,
but I don't think
I'm done.
these
Go
are
ahead.
these ones are for the project that they're proposing now.
Yeah, if I may,
Sure.
thank you. First, in regard to what Eric was saying, actually, I fully support what he was saying, and I don't think that there should be any dredging, and the appropriate plants should be selected for the soil type. But also that made me look at this again, and I don't support, I see that there's reference here to the orders from March 31st, 2015 in these orders.
Right.
The voluntary planting as outlined in the special positions number 40 resolves all outstanding concerns on the Conservation Commission's part pertaining to the March 31st, 2015 approval. This applicant's lawyer was adamant that we not discuss this during this, and I don't think it should be any part of that in these orders. I don't support that. These spots that they're completely, and in light of the whole area, which I seem to be obsessed with, right? That they brought in all that fill. I can't support this, that we're absolving them of planting and keeping a lovely lawn in a resource area.
Mm. Okay. I see where you're reading.
Yeah, just the bottom of the red,
Yep.
the last paragraph. That's I would assume that might be from the applicant's lawyer, but he was adamant that this not be part of it. So I think it
Just
should be
strike that whole thing. Yep.
strike that out. There's also a reference to it above, that it should be also stricken from, that we're not. I think that's I have nothing good to say about that. I shall not say anymore.
All right. Um, Jen, what do we have from them now? Do we have any further continuances or
Nope, I do not.
so the only thing we have from the applicant is that they agreed to continue until today. So if we don't either deny this or have a set of orders, then this is just going to get approved.
I
I mean,
hope.
okay, so if we want to
Hmm.
approve their suggested condition of plantings, what I'm hearing is remove the language that refers to the restoration area from that condition, and the part about being allowed to excavate and provide suitable planting material, saying something along the lines of, you used a good term for an appropriate, an industry professional providing an appropriate
Planting list.
Well, I
planting
think
list.
the argument that they've had before was that they planted what was approved and it died. We don't know how
Sure, sure.
how they really took care of it or whatever, but their frustration was that they planted this out with the direction from the commission, and then most of the materials died. So, I mean, it was their proposed plan. We approved it.
And then
Um,
on. Woof.
so we can have a set of orders with the things in it, and if they disagree, they can appeal our orders. If there's other pieces that you want to put into these orders, at this time, or we deal with that old mitigation area as an enforcement. Do we want to approve a project with the proposals that they have here in the orders that we have, but anything that has to do with that other mitigation area, we're going to have to deal with that with a separate enforcement order? Or do we add in all the things that we want and they appeal it, and then we'll see where DEP stands with our orders, and they may either throw out all of them or part of them?
First of all, I think Eric's suggestion is appropriate.
Richard, can you?
Sorry. Wait a minute. There you go. Is that better?
Yes.
Helps if I put the microphone in front of me. I think Eric was right on. I think that there should be a professional that takes the soil and makes a list according to what soil they're planting in, makes a planting list, and it might be different for the 3 different areas. I think that's appropriate to put in the conditions. Then, if they want to protest, they can protest. But why would we want to just let them carte blanche, send a planting list and have them not work because they put the stuff in the wrong soil? Doesn't make sense.
I think ultimately the goal is to have these succeed.
Right.
And I think that being communicated is important, because we don't want them to have another failed situation that might create another contentious issue.
Right.
Now, I don't know if we can reword that last part of the order to remove the excavation and just I don't know to what degree, we can sort of play with this and still have it be received by the applicant in a favorable light. Because I think that there is a good chance that what was approved before was approved with the understanding that it was a natural soil profile for the given resource area. And if that soil profile was different because there was, dense clay that had been dredged from the harbor and dumped there, then that might change the success rate of some of these planting locations.
Right.
Now, it's impossible to know without going in and taking soil cores in the 3 areas that they've highlighted on this planting area site plan, to know what type of soil is there. Is it the natural parent material, or is it something else? I think the biggest thing out of this, though, is just looking at it from 10,000 feet and saying, we as a commission want this to succeed. And I don't know how we can nuance the verbiage in there that doesn't open ourselves up or open them up to a failed mitigation process here. Because I don't think we want to deny this, right? I mean,
no.
I think that what Brendan said too, removing the reference to the 31st of March 2015 is also appropriate given the context in which this whole project was argued from.
Right. Well, does anybody want to take a stab at some revision? I think you mentioned taking out a piece.
Finally, due to the extremely poor conditions of the soil, which lead to the ultimate demise of the previous plantings, the applicant shall be allowed to excavate and provide suitable planting material. So like that whole section, instead say something that allows them to provide a plan from a qualified individual.
Yep.
Yeah, that we say is qualified.
Okay. Anything else?
And for each area, because they could be very different, especially the one in the 2 corners could be very different from the one in the middle of the property. You got one down by the beach and one which probably was dredge material.
Okay. Anybody else? Penny?
As
I
long
guess
as it only pertains to the project in front of us.
Yep.
and I guess if we're gonna tell them they have to, test this, we have to figure out what soil it is. Should we be removing all of these plants that they're listing here that are okay to plant in the beginning of number 42?
And just replace that with verbiage saying like appropriate plants for the selected location, soil type,
After soil's been
rather than specifying, like you said.
Yeah.
And then there's actually a statement in there about the March 15th, which is saying that this will, absolve them of all of that ugliness that needs to come out.
Nope.
Oh, it's like most of
Right,
this
so
has to go away.
strike that, yeah. So what we're
They struck everything on that page.
so a planting enhancement plan, maybe a planting enhancement, or maybe it's a mitigation plan by a qualified wetland professional shall be accepted at a, I don't know, I have at a public meeting by the Conservation Commission for the mitigation plantings. The plan should include species, number and size, planting strategy.
Did you put soil testing in, Jen?
Soil testing. I have not.
But I think the most important thing would be a textural analysis rather than a chemical analysis, because the textural analysis will provide how the actual structure of the soil is comprised, whether it's X% sand, loam, and clay, etc.
Yeah.
UMass runs those, and turnaround's pretty quick on those.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Textural analysis of the soil rather than a traditional chemical composition of the soil that I think a lot of people think of when it comes to soil testing. We're really interested in here is what type of soil is here. So the textural analysis will provide, the actual physical components of that soil.
Okay. Anything else?
I just want to, Eric, so this is not just somebody going out with an auger and screwing around and coming up and saying, oh, it's this and this. You're talking a more in-depth analysis.
I mean, there are site tests that you can do in situ. So maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be a textural analysis. It could be a chemical analysis paired with in situ from a qualified professional. I mean, you can go out and do a ribbon test, which is basically you take a core, you have the soil in your palm, and if you can basically make a ribbon out of it, you know you have X% clay particles in there.
This was done before. This is my problem, okay? This was done before. It was just recently when we were out there in the spring with Art, he did that and said he didn't see why the plants did not survive in the restoration area. Anyways, I just don't want the same exact thing to happen. Oh, this plant should do well, this plant should do well, and then they're dead in 2 years, like happened before. I'm really just so at my wit's end with this whole project. But do you understand?
Well, we did get the impression that they wanted to survive.
I'm sorry, Penny. What was that?
Well, do you understand? I mean,
no, we get it. We're trying to figure out a way.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, I don't know.
But we want deal with this so we don't have to keep dealing with it, but we don't want to put in orders that, yeah, they'll be frustrated, but they could appeal it and their appeal will be upheld. And then we have nothing there. So trying to figure out that balance. And, you know, if we condition the work that they're proposing and not agree to anything in that earlier mitigation area, then we will have to give them an enforcement order and pursue that in that fashion.
That's fine. We can do that, I think. At least I want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be clear that I don't want to cause an appeal. So, like, do we need to add the textural analysis or just be vague about making sure that the soil type is appropriate for the lists provided for each area? Like, I'm just afraid of going into too much detail in the order where it's starting to create, red flags on their end, whether or not it's, you know, justified or not. Like, I just don't want to be calling too much attention in a negative light to the order relative to making sure that the plant list is appropriate for each location. Maybe it is just something as vague as, a plant list shall be provided, upon review of an industry professional, or whatever you had already written, specific to the soil type and condition at each of the three locations. I'm definitely not wanting them to come back and appeal and then have it, come back and negatively impact the success of this project ultimately.
Right.
Okay, so the other location where they mentioned this voluntary planting as outlined resolves all outstanding concerns. So that's another one, another area to kind of
remove it.
Strike that. I do want to mention that this is their voluntary activity, and these are the plants they came to a conclusion on wanting to plant. So I think it's helpful to them and us if in the process other plants are needed, they communicate that to us with a plan from a professional for each of the areas that, that what makes sense based on what the soils are in that area. Voluntary. I'm trying to keep as much as they wrote in there since it seemed this is what they would like to do, but then provide some, what happens if while they're in the process, they've learned these aren't the right plants.
That seems to make sense to me.
Does anybody have any other verbiage they want to try to use there? Or can we just eliminate those?
I can say that I know what I would do with this number 42.
Go ahead.
It strikes a great deal of what they've written though. But starting at the first line, native slappings and shrubs as follows, I'd start striking from as follows down to 2015.
Yeah. That whole thing.
Then I would leave their next paragraph. Then I would add the
With
plants
the next paragraph being the applicant intends to generally locate.
Yes.
Okay.
Then I would add a line that says something to the effect of, or as I've written here, Plants allowed for the proposed planting area shall be named by a qualified industry professional after analysis, parentheses, including textural analysis of the soils in each distinct area.
Yeah.
Starting with finally, I would strike that down to the end of that paragraph. I would keep the next 3 paragraphs and strike the last paragraph that says this voluntary planting is outlined in special conditions, etc. till the end. That's what I would like to see.
Anybody else?
I'm with you, Brendan.
Brendan, can you send me that?
Yes, just that paragraph.
What you just said? Just yeah.
What you want deleted, Brendan?
Yeah, but you added a nice sentence in there.
Yeah. Just 1 second. I'll copy it into the email.
Okay. All right.
I'll
So
copy all of number 42 for you.
So with the discussion tonight, are we comfortable voting this per our discussion? So Jen,
And go home.
So we can
So-
send this out so we can issue
Yeah.
it.
yep. I mean, I'm fine with it. We
Yeah,
want to make that deadline.
Yeah, I would want to make the deadline, and I guess I'm fine with it considering what I just sent Jen is what
Yeah.
I made it.
Okay.
So
I think I've got the gist of it.
should I email it to those on this call, or is that not Jen?
I think we're
Sure.
Frank?
Yep.
sure. But I think if we can say that we can vote this with it per this discussion, I think we're fine.
Is everybody, well, let's take it and see what happens. I'll make a motion to accept the new orders, the add-ons, the
Well,
deletions.
why don't you just say the orders at hand with the discussed revisions?
The orders at hand with the discussed revisions for 181 Edward Foster Road.
Yep. Do you have a
I would
second?
second that.
Brendan. All in favor, Richard?
I think he disappeared again.
What?
He made a hand motion.
Yeah, I did.
He
Are you
doesn't
there?
have
Are you
mic-
there
Right
now?
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Is Jen still with us?
Jen is
No.
gone.
Okay. And so I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Penny made the motion.
Brendan said.
Brendan seconded. So Eric
yes.
and Frank, yes. Josh worked that all out.
Okay, have fun.
Brendan, did you include Josh on that? Or
Yeah, I replied to everybody on the email Jen had sent
Okay, great.
with the orders on it.
Okay. Thank you for putting all that effort into it.
My pleasure.
Okay.
What's next?
165 Summer Street for orders.
Yeah, I make a motion, we accept those orders as written.
So a second,
I'll second that.
Brendan, all in favor, Richard
Yes.
and Eric
Yes.
and Frank, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Open space update rules for conservation land. So what this is I'm not sure we're going to get to all of this tonight. We need to talk about our rules as they regard to conservation land. We have a broad kind of general set of rules and regulations for our different properties, and they're pretty much all the same, or they are all the same. And
Stop.
so whether we are going to make some modifications, the ones for the Driftway Park, the right ones for Border Street or Appleton or Mordecai Lincoln, and or any of them. And do we want to have different rules for different properties? Is what we kind of need to discuss. And I'm not sure tonight's the night to get into all that. But right now we have one of the pressing ones we have is our rules for our properties say that dogs are allowed on leashes. And so in a broad sense, that covers all of our properties. But what we need to think about is that the right rule for every property, depending on habitat and vegetation, the size of the property. Those are the kind of things that we need to think about. And I just real briefly, maybe Penny, you want to add something? I don't know if Jen, if you want to. I don't think we can get into a lot of this tonight because it's already 8:30. But like to
Well,
hear.
can we discuss this at the August 13th meeting?
Well, just one. Yeah, why don't you just give us a little brief thoughts?
Okay, here's the skinny on Mordecai Lincoln. It's only 5.5, 6 acres. Okay. You go out and you go around the outer perimeter. You have all kinds of wildlife. Dogs will scare the wildlife away. And then when you come back in, you have a beautiful meadow, which we have lots of little critters living in now. And we have a path going down to the kayak. If you allow dogs there, we've already had some issues. They go in the field and they're destroying the lovely meadow. I would strongly suggest Mordecai Lincoln be off limits to dogs. We have other places in town, dogs aren't allowed. The beaches, they're not allowed at different hours, and there's different spots. But this is a very delicate environment over there. It's very different from the woods where you're open. And yeah, so that's it. I with the town had put up no dogs allowed sign, and then somebody was giving us a bunch of back talk that he should be able to take his dog there because
I think Penny, I think that the point is that we have a set of rules for all the property. So when someone looks at that and the way they interpret that, it would fall the same. So it's a process that we need to go through if we want to have different rules. And I think it's a good discussion to have, but it's also, do we want to maybe within Appleton, do we want to say that people should not let dogs run freely on Appleton? There's people that would like to use some of these properties to maybe train their dog. I heard there was somebody training falcons up at Appleton Field. So, there's places that might be appropriate for some of that. People that have, different types of dogs for different reasons might want to do some of that. Do we want to restrict some of it? It's a discussion that we should have, and maybe, like you say, we could do it in August, but that's the kind of discussion that I think we should have when we deviate from what we have for rules. Do you follow me?
No, I do follow you, and it was, well, I presented it at different meetings. Nobody seemed to have an issue. I talked to Craig Keefe, I talked to Mark Thompson, I got signage and, whatever. Yes, I would like to discuss it because I would like it in black and white, because I am not going to stand up there arguing with somebody. We have a dog park, and you're right. Each piece of property, and we did put up the signs for conservation, and all about hunting and dogs off leash and so forth was all blacked out. So Mordecai Lincoln, very, you know, whatever. Yes, we have to have a policy in black and white. So I would like that top of the agenda on August 13th because I do not want the meadow destroyed. Yeah, and it will be destroyed very quickly by dogs.
Yeah, not to drag this on, but I'm just curious: is the meadow being destroyed by leash dogs?
People,
No, I
let me
guess
put
it's
it this
not,
way:
but
not at the moment,
yeah,
but
it was just,
was being used before we turned it into a meadow for
yeah,
throwing the ball for the dog.
right. Okay. That, yeah.
And it's
No,
a small
I support
property.
having some different rules. Well, I guess we'll talk about it
Yeah.
on the 13th.
I think this was an opportunity to get folks to start to think about it a little bit, and how do we go from there? But technically, right now, if someone went onto a conservation property, they could follow the rules that we have in hand.
Yeah, I think that the idea of different rules for different sites is appropriate. I also think that if there is a no dogs policy at a certain site, that does eliminate the potential for off leash, rule violators to even be at that location. I know for one, running at Appleton, there are plenty of dogs off leash chasing me running through the trails. So if there is a no dog policy, then no dogs could be off leash or on leash in, sensitive areas. There just is no dog, period. So I understand what you're saying, Brennan, like completely. If there is a dog on a leash, then it shouldn't be chasing,
Yeah, but
wildlife or going off into, sensitive areas. But the potential is there that because dogs are still allowed, that there are rule breakers, I
yes.
suppose.
Oh, yes, there are.
And it's such a small trail. This would be a wonderful opportunity, Brendan. Take 15 minutes. Go up there before August 13th.
I
Walk
support you
the
having no
trail.
dogs there. I support it.
No,
All right,
but
well, we're not,
I'm just saying.
But I will go there.
but we're gonna, if we're gonna vote,
Sorry.
if we're gonna vote a change in our policy, we need to put that together and then put that out there in a as advertise it as one of the discussions at our meetings, so that if other people feel differently, they have the opportunity to speak to it as well. And I don't know, I don't really want to get into this at length tonight. I don't know if there's anybody else in the audience that wants to comment on this evening, but we are trying to have a sort of a policy meeting, and that's another question I have is just do we have enough members that can make that kind of meeting, so we can do that. But first off, is there anybody else want to comment on this evening?
Can I unmute?
Sure. Yeah.
Lincoln? Okay, hold on one moment.
Lincoln, unmute Lincoln, please. And again, would like to not keep this going on too late tonight because it's already 8:30 and we still have several things to discuss.
Hi folks. I won't take too much of your time. Good evening. My name is Lincoln Heineman. I'm a resident in Scituate on First Parish Road. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just sort of reiterate what Chair Snow said, that just ask, that if there's one set of rules, that they all be applied throughout the different properties, and that if there are a different set of rules for different properties, that there's just some specific thinking around why that is. So, I mean, I know there's certainly different types of wildlife on any of the properties in town. But if dogs on leash are to be banned at a particular property, it just seems to me that there should be really strong rational reason for why that is. That is to say, protecting a particular type of bird because it's right by the trail, whatever the case may be. But I guess, I respect Penny very much, but I'm not sure how a leashed dog could be dangerous for the field. But that's my opinion. So
Okay.
thank you.
And I think that the other point that this brought out, and if you think about it, we do have areas like the Spit where we have to think about plovers. They're protected under a different thing. So it gets a little more complicated. Lincoln and I had a chance to talk about this a little bit, and um, I do think it's something we should delve into a little bit more. I just don't think it's a great thing at 8:30 with a few more items to go. But I think they're points that everybody needs to look at and then kind of work from there. So I appreciate your call tonight, the opportunity you and I had to chat, um and I think as members, if we can just start to mull this around in our heads, so when we do bring this up, we'll have a better uh, opportunity to kind of vet this. All right.
Yeah. No, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Um, so just while we're talking about that, what I did have on was, I think Jen had sent out an email for us having another meeting at the Mount Hope building, um, where we have a chance to talk about some of our policies and procedures. And I just wonder if anybody had a chance to look at that, if they think they're going to be, I know it's summer, everybody's got lots going on. Is that a good time, or do we need to push it back a little bit?
Frank, I'm trying to clear up a whole mess of stuff so that I can be there. I haven't been able to do it all yet, so that's why I haven't said I'd be there.
And we don't have to answer tonight, but maybe during the week this week we could just, because I've made a reserve the building for that night. But if we look at it really realistically, and folks and um Jen's already off the call for tonight, so maybe we'll send out a second email and just ask folks to take a look and see if we can get a consensus by the end of the week or early next week or something. All right.
Well, it would be next week, so we can't wait too long.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's next week. I do have a I don't have the count in front of me. I have heard from most people that they can be there, or at least be there for part of it. So it might be at least a good discussion, even if we don't have everybody.
Okay. Well, then let's keep it for the 13th and we'll set up an agenda. That way we can advertise it.
Okay.
All right. And on that will be a discussion about dogs and different properties, as well as some other things. Jen and I will get together. Jen, Josh, and I can put it together. All right.
Good.
Minor modification requests for 37 Collier. We're not ready to address that tonight, right?
No, and I did want to say 15 Bassin. That was one where we wanted the infiltrators to go in. So I just wanted to let you know they've given us a revised plan where they're going to put the infiltrators. They're going to do that. And then once we have that certified that they're in, then start the work on the garage.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Certificates of compliance.
47 Wood Ave, good with that one. They used to have a septic. They don't anymore. There was a continuing condition about maintaining that septic system. They're connected to sewer. So they just wanted to clean that up. So a full certificate of compliance. I guess they were given a partial because of that maintenance. But I did have some concerns about the Bailey Causeway one. I don't know how much time we have to get into that, but
Yeah, let's not do that one tonight. And
Okay.
I think
I
we
did
need
let
to.
Morse know that.
Okay, thanks. Any of the enforcements?
Yeah, so actually 115 Grove Street, I think, is on the call. We had asked them to join us for the meeting. That was one where they had an order of conditions for new build from a few years ago. It included some plantings. The stormwater for it included a rain garden, but stormwater was through the planning department. Although the rain garden is built, it wasn't planted, and then the plantings around the property were not installed, were not planted, but at the moment the orders have expired. So we wanted to kind of connect with the owner of the house to figure out moving forward.
Okay.
And all right,
have
so
that. Do we have them on tonight?
yes, I can unmute Mr. Callis, Patrick Callis.
Okay.
I'm hoping for an update on plantings and maybe getting a proposal to do the work.
Sure. So I'm not sure how much background you guys have on this, but and maybe you guys can help shed some light on what the kind of responsibility here is. But it really was. This wasn't from a planting perspective, never in our scope. This was from the builder. So the builder had done the application. He had what I'm assuming is, well, he definitely did put up the bond. It wasn't us as the owners. We bought the house, but he was supposed to complete the plantings. So that's why the letters that you guys have addressed have been to us, as well as like 119 Grove Street LLC / Seacoast Builders. But this was never on our radar to have to complete, because we were never the ones who had applied for it. It's the builder. And so you guys know too, like the builder has ghosted us essentially too, and I'm not hearing him either. So it's not like if the bond is released to us and then we can use the money to do the plantings, I'm happy to coordinate. But this was never something that we were expecting to do.
So the bond is held by the planning board,
right?
FYI. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't. So that wouldn't be with us, Patrick. But unfortunately, you're caught in a little bit of a pickle. You purchased a house that had a set of orders that directed these things to be done. When the property was divided and we had hearings and there were neighbors concerned about different issues, all those things were addressed, and that's why that plan was put together the way that it was. And though I appreciate your problem with the builder, it really slides on to you. I mean, you're the owner of
I'm sorry, Frank, but if that's your take on it, then I would say that we should probably have the town attorney and our attorney coordinate, because I'm not going to put up $20+ thousand to do plantings. You guys had asked the builder for a quote for what the plantings are. He went to Kenny's garden. He got the quote. You guys were supposed to hold 1.5 times what that bond was. So for me, I'm not going to put out my own money for something that wasn't in my scope. And if your belief is that I then own that responsibility, I would like to have that honestly coordinated between attorneys, because you can't just ask someone to put up $20,000 for something that wasn't originally part of their scope.
It was part. Well, and that's fine. I think that it's unfortunate to spend money on an attorney, because maybe that isn't what has to be done. But nothing that was supposed to go in there was completed. And when we had lots of rain and lots of issues, other people are getting impacted, and they took it when this property was subdivided and approved, that certain things would get done with that property, and they weren't.
But whose job was it to get the bond? Is that not the town's responsibility to get a bond from who's ever doing the application?
It's a set of orders that was recorded with the property. So when you purchased the property, your attorney would have been aware that we really probably, this isn't the time to have a legal discussion about this, and maybe it is better between two attorneys. I'd rather see some simple way to get this resolved. And I realize your frustration with having to bear the responsibility for this. So maybe some legal advice needs to be taken.
I'm happy to help coordinate what needs to be done, but in my discussions when I had talked with Karen, and she had said, and recognizing that she's on the planning board, she had said that the bond couldn't be released directly to me, but I could help coordinate, which I'm happy to do. What I'm not going to do is I can't do that. I'm for me, I'm not going to start this unless like my attorney would say that I absolutely need to with my own dime. I would need
Okay.
to have confirmation that the bond would be paid to whatever contractor could do the work. I'm happy to help coordinate it.
Yeah, I don't think, well, let's find that out, but I don't think the town's going to do that sort of work either. I mean, somehow maybe some meeting of this could be reached. I can't speak for the planning board. And maybe it is going to have to be a meeting between conservation, planning, town council, and yourself. And maybe before you engage an attorney, that's up to you. Save you some money. Could have that kind of conversation.
No, I'm happy. I like I said, I'm happy to coordinate it, but it's not something that was ever. My
well,
ask would have been
yeah, I think I appreciate you being on the call tonight. You know, we've been trying to bring this forward for a while. You know, it was last winter with a lot of rain that we're still getting complaints from abutters that are frustrated that what they anticipated being done there was never done. And I can't speak for this in great detail because some of the stuff was done by the planning board. But I did.
So I guess part of my confusion though too is while I recognize I'm the owner, I'm certainly not the applicant and or the bond holder. So why isn't the town making an effort to also to bring the builder into the discussion as well?
The
Well,
town. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say the order of conditions from conservation is with the owner of the property. But just like Frank said, it's great that you came onto the call because what we want to work towards is it all getting done. And I think the next step would be um, coordinating somebody, getting a quote from somebody to do the work, not just for the plants, but to actually do the work. And
So
let's
question for
see
you on
where
that,
that
Jen.
is. Yes.
Taryn was out here with someone from conservation
Yes,
last week
that was
putting together
me.
scope work.
Yes.
Okay. So she had said that she was going to send a letter with what the exact scope was, and then I could use that to then get a quote.
Yes. So that's why it's great that you're here. I was hoping maybe you'd have the letter, before this, but we wanted to make contact so that we can be working on this, to have things move forward. So
Sure.
that is being worked on. We just hadn't
Okay.
heard from you from some past letters, so we figured this would just get us all talking together.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'm on the lookout for that scope, and once I get that, I mean, I already have some contractors in mind. Like I said, it's obviously some coordination between myself and potentially the builder in the town regarding the bond.
Okay, understood.
All right. So, and thanks for joining the meeting tonight, Patrick, and starting to move this forward. And we'll see if we can coordinate something on this end. Take it from there. All right.
Sounds good.
We all would much rather just see the work get done than spend a bunch of time and money litigating things that in the end won't make anybody happy. So let's see where we can go from here. All right.
Yep. Sounds good.
No, thank you.
Okay, the other ones are working. I don't know that we really have time to get into them, but I guess the other thing would be great if we voted the minutes.
Penny, you want to make a motion on the minutes?
Penny's gone.
I think Penny's gone.
Great. Anybody else want to make a motion on the minutes?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes for 7 Winslow Ave, 43 Surfside Road, 109 River Street, 162 Jericho Avenue, and 188 Manlot Road.
Those are enforcements.
Oh,
Yeah, don't vote those.
I'm telling you, I was up too early and you keep me.
Yeah. Well, all we need is someone to move to vote the minutes.
7/22/24.
And
April 1.
Where's that? It's not on here.
Oh. Well, can you also vote April 1?
April 1st too, sure.
Thank you.
And I second those.
So we got a motion from Richard, a second from Brendan. All in favor? Eric?
I am in favor.
And Frank, yes. That's 4 of us. Okay.
Frank, it's late. This is way beyond my
What's that?
bedtime. It's way beyond my bedtime. Come
Do we
on.
have to end this meeting before we run out of people?
Yeah, real quick, or we won't be able to go home without it. Just one more quick thing. I've got a request from the Scituate Scout Troop to do some sort of a primitive camping area at the town forest on Maple Street. And it's an Eagle Scout project. They'd like to be able to create an area where they can have like maybe an overnight or couple night camping things that prepares them for other longer term camping, things like that. And they're willing to create an area. They're also, could be for other outing groups within, like say at the high school or whatever. And I think it's a good idea. We've talked about doing this before in a couple other spots. Technically, the town forest is under the care and custody of this board, the select persons, not our commission. But if we're in agreement, I'd kind of help him move forward to go before the select board and see what could be worked out. So we're going to need to get more details, but just want to get a consensus from you folks that you feel like we could help them move forward. And
We've done
anybody
before,
have
Frank.
any concerns about this?
No.
No, I
No,
don't
I
have
think
any
it's a good idea.
concerns.
No.
No negatives.
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take that as a positive and move this forward some more and we'll be back in touch.
Good.
All right. And I'll take the biggest motion of the evening from somebody.
I make a motion
Make a
to
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
You got
All right,
a
Brendan
motion and
made
a
the
second.
motion. Eric made a second. Richard,
I'd say good night with pleasure and thank you.
good evening. Thanks you all so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.